Episode 130, Jesus in My Bedroom. Welcome back to One Extraordinary Marriage, where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of intimacy. You're here with Elisa DiLorenzo.
And Tony DiLorenzo.
And it's the countdown. Many of you have already sent your kids back to school. Some of you are in the final days and weeks.
And we're counting down the days here.
We're down to less than 10 days.
And we're excited.
We're excited, but they are too. I know a few years ago, we actually had a listener caution us about how we spoke about the kids going back to school. And the reality is that our kids are very excited to go back to school. They're excited to spend time with their friends again and, just have kind of that structure. Mm-hmm. So they're on board with it too. They're telling us they're ready to go back to school. So don't worry about what we're saying. It's echoes from the kids.
Yeah. And for Elisa and I, it's just summers are great. We love them tremendously. And we love our kids and we love the family time together. But as we put down in our book, Stripped Down, the first chapter is from the top down. And it is God at the top, our spouse second, our kids third, work is fourth, and then all those other activities last. And when I say that too, it's not quantity of time, it's quality of time. Because we know work, you're pretty much spending probably 40 hours plus a week there for most of you who are full-time employed or even running a business. So it's hard to go, hey, well, how do I put God or my spouse or my kids above that? And we're just talking about quality. And it's during this time for us, just where our kids are, and maybe for some of you, that the quality of the time that Elisa and I get to spend together is it's diminished a bit. Mm-hmm. Just because we don't have those solid blocks of time each day where we can just talk. And that can get frustrating for somebody like myself, where I'm out and about, I'm doing my thing, and I just want to call Elisa and I want to just talk to Elisa. And I don't want to hear the jabbering and the chit-chat and all the noise in the background. Doesn't mean I don't love my kids any less. It's just I want to spend some quality time with Elisa, and during this summer break, it's tough to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fortunately, we've been able to carve out a little more time, but I do like how you brought up, and I know it's completely unintentional, that first chapter in the book where we talk about from the top down, because we're gonna tackle that tonight, and we're doing it so we're recording this on Sunday night, and earlier today
we put a question down on our Facebook fan page, which we'll also link to here, so that way you guys can read it as well. But the question that we posed was, Jesus is sitting in a blue chair in your bedroom as you make love to your spouse. What are your thoughts about this?
And the picture itself is just of a blue chair.
That's it.
It's actually a really cool chair.
I will have a link in the show notes. So go to episode 130 mm-hmm. and you'll see a link there, and it'll go to the comments that we have. But we're going to talk about this because it's really interesting, because we talk about this a lot to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And when we just finished up our Stripped Down small group last week.
So we just talked about prayer works with these guys mm-hmm. in our small group.
It's the last chapter in our book, Stripped Down there. And so we talked about this to, what do we have there the last night? 7 couples?
7 couples.
And so it's interesting because a lot of people just don't feel comfortable in mm-hmm. this, right? And for the longest time, you and I didn't feel comfortable thinking about, Jesus, the omnipresent Savior, sitting there or being there in our lives, in our bedroom.
Well, and I have to say, we're reading the comments.
And we'll read some.
And they're going back and forth on both sides of the fence. But a lot of people got weirded out at the idea that Jesus was watching them. It was like this this voyeuristic, Jesus is sitting there watching the whole thing. And so I'm like, Tony, what did you put up? Because I hadn't seen the actual posting yet. I was just reading through all the comments that were popping up on my email through the Facebook alert. And so I went back and I read what Tony had actually written. And it was just, Jesus is sitting there. It's not like, I mean, not that he couldn't see what you're doing, but he's not like, ooh, let's see what position they're trying tonight, type of thing. It's just that he, you know, the sentiment behind the statement was that Jesus is with you.
Right.
It was never, you know, some people, you know, were talking about it being very perverted and, you know, so there were comments that this is, you know, Jesus is perverted. I mean, that was really, I think that was actually said in one of the comments or something to that effect. Some people said, you know, there's bigger things going on in the world. Why isn't Jesus taking care of that instead of watching me have sex? And really it goes back to the fact that Jesus is everywhere. Jesus is with, you know, the people in war-torn countries. Jesus is with those people that are victims of natural disaster. Jesus is with somebody who has just lost a child. Jesus is with us in our bedroom. Jesus is with my kids when they're out playing with their friends. That is the definition of omnipresent. So what happens is when we try and put Jesus in these boxes, we try and take control of all the other areas where we don't want Jesus. We say, you know what? I'll trust you with this area. Maybe, you know, maybe we start praying, you know, God, I could really use some help with my finances. You know, God, if you could just, you know, make the mortgage lender accept my loan modification. And if you could make sure that I don't lose my job, you know, this week with all the changes that are going on, that would be really fantastic. But God, you know what? This whole addiction thing that I've got going on, I got a handle on that. You know, don't worry about my Facebook addiction and the fact that I spend hours on there. Don't worry about my pornography addiction, because that's not really a problem. I got control of that, but I need you to help me with my finances. That's what happens when we don't allow God to be where he already is. He's there, folks. It's whether or not you're tuned into him and open to him being there and being a presence in your life. Are you willing to show and share all that he already knows? But it's a willingness on our part to let down our walls, our issues, and lay that literally at the feet of the cross. Right. And say, I've done this. Some of us are even going to be able to say, I am doing this right now. Fill in the blank. You know, but you got to get over yourselves. Yeah. You know, those of you that were just like, oh, this is just, it's a hard concept.
Right. And I'm going to read this one real quick because Elise had brought it up. And Laura said, maybe he should turn his attention to the plight of the world and not what's going on in my bed. No offense meant, but come on. Well, let me tell you guys something. The world you live in, that world you live in with your spouse, that's pretty dang important in my opinion. Because if you don't put what's happening in your own marriage, it's going to crumble. And it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your spouse. If you have kids, it's going to affect your kids. It's going to affect your parents. It's going to affect in-laws. It's going to affect relationships. Do you not think that there are big things that are happening in your world? Jesus doesn't need to be out saving, you know, every single kid that doesn't have food, you know, and he does. He's there. He's present. But come on. Do you not think that Jesus should be there for you, for your spouse? Think about it. That's your world. We are so ready and so easy to go help somebody else, to go do something else because we want to be important. We want to look good. Oh, look what I just did. But dang it, your bedroom is crumbling. There's no creativity. There's no talk. There's nothing. It's dead. Do you not think that your bedroom is not important to Jesus? Think about it. Don't tell me, come on. I've been at this for a long time now. And I'm going to continue on. And I'm going to keep fighting for marriages because you know why? Because it's important. I'm seeing the devastation that happens when couples cannot get along. Okay? We see it. We hear it. We deal with it every day. And that is why we come behind these mics and we talk. Because we want you guys to realize how important it is. That your bedroom is an important place, and to have Jesus there is so important.
Well, and it's one of those things too where, you know, the structure of family is critical to this world. You know, we've got to provide stability for the generations that are coming after us. It has to be, you know, we've kind of got to go back to that. You know, divorce has become an easy way out. There have been so many easy way outs and so many slippery slopes that, you know what, we need to refocus on our commitments. I mean, that's kind of what's happened here. When we don't want to invite Jesus in, we don't want to have God as the foundation in our marriage, then again, we're saying that we can do it by ourselves. And I will be the first person to admit that many times when I try and do something by myself, it is not successful. It causes me a lot of stress. It causes me a lot of irritation, frustration, you name it, any of those words that are negative. When I try and do things my own way, or try, more often in my case, I try and control all of the aspects of a particular area, whether it's, you know, I mean, we had it this weekend. We were trying to go pick something up and I'm like, our appointment's at noon. We got to go. And Tony's like, will you just relax? What's going to happen if we're 10 minutes late? Nothing but my anal retentive have to show up on time self feels complete anxiety when it seems like that's out of control. If I would just lighten up a little bit, and I'm working on this, it's not easy for me, but if I would just lighten up a little bit and just be in the present with my kids, would that matter more than whether or not we were there 5 minutes early? Probably. Would it matter to Tony if I wasn't so high strung sometimes? Absolutely. You know, what does that take? It takes me coming to the conclusion that I cannot rely on my own abilities to change who I am. That I can only do so much, and then I need God to do what he needs to do. Mm-hmm. Because we by nature, and if you haven't figured this out yet, I'm going to give you a huge news flash here as far as humans. Humans by nature are very selfish creatures. And some of you I can already hear the emails coming saying that's not true, blah, 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 blah. The statistics bear it out, folks. We want more. There's always that brass ring or gold ring or whatever color ring you have, the carrot that's out there saying, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. He's got this, she's got that. I want, the newest phone. I want the newest iPad. I want the newest camera. I want the newest car. I want a bigger house. And so what does that do? All of a sudden we get in this rat race and we're trying to control all of the factors. And you know what? Maybe that's not what God has intended for your life. Maybe God wants to bless you in other ways. Maybe God wants to give you a phenomenal marriage where the two of you are working together. You are a team, and that has such an amazing impact on your community. You become the couple that others turn to when they're in trouble. Mm-hmm. You become that resource for engaged and newly marrieds that are like, okay, you know what? What are they doing? Like, how did they figure this out? Because the reality is that there are not that many great examples. Let me take that back. There are great examples out there of marriages that are surviving. But you know what? There aren't so many people talking about what it takes to get that done. So you guys need to step it up and say, you know what? We are going to have an extraordinary marriage, but the way that we're going to get there is we're going to go from the top down. Uh-huh. We are going to put Jesus back as the foundation of our marriage. We are going to say, you know what? That's where our strength comes from. Because this marriage thing, let me tell you, it's not successful unless you have a solid foundation. And I know, because 11 years into this marriage, we did not have a solid foundation. And it could have gone either way.
And that's 7 years after accepting Christ into our lives.
Yes. Yeah. So, the choice is yours. we're not going to tell you this is a do or die situation, although it is, but you have to be the one to make a choice. You guys have to get past the fact that, yes, this concept of having Jesus in your bedroom, it does weird you out. It does. The first time I told Tony that I prayed for sex, he looked at me like, the biggest deer in the headlight moment had just happened. And I mean, the eyes were, saucers. He's like, you did what? How is that impossible? And I'm like, dude, I had nothing. Like, you weren't getting it tonight if I didn't pray, because I didn't want to. And I was in a really low place. It was after, it was during our 60 days, and it was after everybody had been sick except for me. So I was in the caregiver mode for a week. Tony had ended up in urgent care. I think I'd had my period that week, and I was done. And I know a lot of you feel that same way, where you're just like, I've got nothing left to give. Nothing. I don't want to work on this. I don't want to try anymore. I'm tired, God. I'm done, and I don't want to do it anymore. And you know what? When you cry out then, that's when you give God an opportunity to say, you know what? I am here. Mm-hmm. It's my turn. Stop trying to control this whole thing. And you know what? He always shows up. He may not always answer your prayer the way you want him to, because let's face it, sometimes what we want, again, goes back to that selfish nature. We want it, nice and tidy and in a cute little package with a bow on top, delivered immediately. And sometimes there has to be a waiting, and that waiting is for a reason. And sometimes the answer is a different answer than you want, and it's because God has amazingly better things in store for you. But if we don't learn to lean on him, how do we know what he's got in store for us? We're too busy trying to do it on our own and saying, you know what, God, I'm sorry, you're not invited into this room. This party, not for you.
It's a compartmentalization of Jesus. Hey, you know what? I need you here now because I'm sick, or my spouse is sick, or my kid is sick. But when it comes to my finances, when it comes to my sex life, when it comes to my pornography addiction, or my addiction to alcohol, or my addiction to drugs, I'll just take care of it and I'll do it on my own. And that's, folks, when we stumble. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not. Heck, I fall more times than I can think of lately. But I get up and I realize that, you know what? I made a mistake. I messed up. I do what I have to do to make things right. Mm-hmm. And so when we're talking about Jesus in your bedroom, please do not pervert this as if this is some voyeurism, right? That's why you say the word. As if there's a third person looking on. This isn't perverted. This isn't pornography. This is the Savior of the world looking down upon you, or there beside you, or could be in the bedroom in the blue chair with his back to you. It's him there. And I think Faith said this really well, and I'm going to read what she said. She goes, I know God created sex as the ultimate form of love between a married couple, and that sex between those who share in a marriage covenant with one another is a beautiful thing, and there's nothing wrong about it. I know when we are joined together in love, it pleases God. Amen. However, because of the perversion in this world and warped views of this world has created in our minds about sex, I would definitely feel uncomfortable with that thought. We have been taught that to think of anyone outside of the couple's relationship that is watching a sexual act to be a pervert. So I couldn't envision Jesus being in our bedroom because of that mindset. And it's sad that we as Christians have let the world destroy and infiltrate our mind. Jesus is there, if you like it or not. But I will tell you, a lot of that perversion is coming from external sources, pornography, be it even just normal TV shows and magazines. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, I know because I've been there. I know perversion. I know it. And through his miracle on me and taking me and molding me and getting me out of an 18-year addiction to pornography, I know the difference. And so my mindset is completely different now. And those images of what I used to look at are completely wiped away. They're gone. I don't see them anymore. I see my beautiful wife, Elisa. That's who I see when I'm in bed with her. And I know it's tough, but I really want to challenge you guys to stop looking at what the world is showing you and look at your spouse in a new light and realize that Jesus is right there. He is there.
It's obviously a topic we feel pretty passionate about. It's one that has rocked our world and changed our marriage. And, you know, as I was reading through some of these comments this morning, I mean, you know, some of them I do have to say made me chuckle. And, you know, I love that you guys as our audience are not afraid to speak your mind.
Yeah. Amen. Thank you.
That you guys will, whichever side of the fence that you're on, that you will, for the most part, you're very tactful in handling each other and other people in the community. And so I appreciate that. But like Tony said, we're going to challenge you guys because this has been, I mean, we've been on this journey for 5 years now. Mm-hmm. 5 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it wasn't overnight that we were just like, hey, God, welcome to the bedroom. You know, this is Tony. I'm Elisa. Hey, you know, pull up a chair and have a seat. So we're not expecting you guys to flip the switch. What we're asking you to do is to be open, to invite God into your bedroom. And maybe it starts with a conversation. I mean, maybe you guys just even start off praying together in the bedroom. You know, I mean, you don't have to like just jump right into going, oh, okay, you know, we're having sex and God's here. Maybe start praying together in your bedroom, inviting him in. Be an active participant in inviting God into your bedroom. However that works for you guys. I mean, we've shared with you guys the first time Tony and I tried to pray together, I broke out in one of those girly giggle type things. There's really no other way to describe it. All you ladies out there know what I'm talking about when you just kind of get a case of the giggles and uncontrollable and completely inopportune. And that's what happened the first time we prayed together. And that was not good for Tony at all. But you know what? We didn't give up. We didn't give up. We didn't stop trying to say, okay, you know what, God, you've got a place here. We just have to work through our own mind garbage on that. Exactly what Tony was just saying, you know, what the world has distorted this for us. And, you know, I mean, we tell our little kids that God is everywhere. And my daughter would tell you that God is everywhere. So why is it around this one topic? As we get older, we're like, whoa, I know when I was 5, God was everywhere, but you know what? I'm 25 now, or I'm 35 or 55. God, you're not going there. My daughter will tell you he's there anyway. You know, so give yourself the freedom to invite him into that aspect of your marriage and see what starts to happen.
And that's the key. You got to start. Start somewhere. Elise and I, like she said, it didn't just happen and oh, it's boom, we've been changed. You know? We took steps and we've been talking about this topic to each other and to others through our book, through our small groups, through you guys here on the podcast and Facebook and other mediums, that we are so passionate about it because it is the one that makes so many people cringe. When we go through our book and we get to that last chapter and we're doing it, you can just sort of see everybody. There's like, okay, here we go. And you know what? It needs to be talked about. And Elise and I are not scared to talk about it because we want you to have that connection with your spouse that is so absolutely amazing that you are like cheering at the top of your lungs from the rooftops, just going, this is my beloved, and I am in love with him. I am in love with her. 16 years Elise and I are about to go on, and I will tell you, and she will too, that we have the most passionate and amazing lovemaking sessions now than we ever have. And I don't see that going down. And don't get me wrong that we don't have tough times and crazy moments in this household. We have plenty of them. Plenty. I mean, if there was a video camera following us around, you guys would think we were whack jobs at times.
We are. I think what you're trying to say is that we are far from perfect.
Yeah,
we're not. I mean, we come on these mics and sometimes you guys hear us and, we've been in the middle of arguments before. We have had devastating news regarding health of parents. We've had financial difficulties. All of that weighs on your intimacy. Mm-hmm. All of it. Life weighs on you.
Yeah.
Your spouse should be that refuge. And together, the two of you should be able to turn to God and say, you know what? We need you. We are not strong enough to do this on our own. I think, part of what's going on in the world right now is that so many people are trying to solve all of their problems themselves. And, the solutions, run the gamut, but really they're all just searching. So many of our solutions, whether it's, getting obsessed with Facebook and, the connections there, or having lunch with that coworker, these are all seeking activities. Mm-hmm. Trying to fill that emptiness that we feel. Because I will tell you right now, your spouse cannot be all things to you. They can't. They cannot fulfill every single one of your needs. And if you expect them to, those expectations are so unrealistic that they cannot help but fail. And then you are upset because they have failed you at something they could never succeed at. There's only one person. There's only one being that can fill you. And that is God. And he will not let you down. Again, your life may not plot out the way you wanted it to. There will be disappointments. There will be pain. We have shared with you guys the loss of a child. We have shared with you guys financial debt. We have shared, Tony already mentioned it, the pornography addiction. We have lost our home. This is not, somebody talked to me today at church and he's like, so how are things going? It was him and his wife. And I said, things are great. Because they were. I mean, we had a phenomenal Sunday at church. And, I'm thinking, okay, everything's good. He's like, well, yeah, except for your washer. Because he had listened to the podcast last week. And I was laughing because, you know what? It didn't even register that was a problem. It was immediately in the moment when I walked out and, last week and saw the garage flooded. But we've bypassed and worked around it. And so I'm like, you know what? That didn't even faze me.
Mm-hmm. And for many of you, you're going, well, what do we do, guys? I mean, how do we make this happen in our marriage? Now, one book I am going to ask you to pick up. It's our 7 Days of Sex Challenge book, and you can get it at 7daysofsex.com. Because in that book, we actually walk you through day by day for 7 days how to do some different things, expand your horizon in your marriage. And one of those days is prayer. And we go into it in that one as well. You couple that book with what we're doing here and what we're talking about on this podcast, and I'm telling you, you're going to have a fireworks of 7 days of sex. So look at that for a guide on how to, because that's the way we wrote that. It's called the Ready, Set, Go guide for us. And it's, ready. We're going to get you ready for what's ahead. We're going to set you up in the set section and go. We're going to give you that 7-day plan. So you can go to 7daysofsex.com to learn more about that and pick it up. It's a Kindle version only. So I just want you guys to think openly. Get outside of your boxes that are holding you in. And we challenge ourselves to this. Like Elisa brought up with her innate ability to always want to be on time, even when it really doesn't matter. And I challenge her on that time and time again.
It cut, like even thinking about being late causes anxiety in me.
Right. It does. And you know what? What we do is I have to look at her and go, Elisa, it's not going to cause a world meltdown. We're going to go pick up a rental car. So if the reservation's at noon and we're there at 12:30, it's still going to be there. They will have a car reserved for us. So similar with this, bringing Jesus into your bedroom, allowing him to be there when you are being sexually active with your spouse. It's going to take time. It's not going to be one conversation and it's done and it's over with and you guys are both like, woo, this is so wonderful. No, it's not. So don't set yourselves up for failure that way. But what Elisa said earlier too is that we want and we need you to be champions of extraordinary marriages. And you're probably going, me? Why? I don't want. No, we do. Because we need you to be in your church. We need you to be in your community, impacting other people, sharing what we do here, sharing Stripped Down, sharing your lives with them, because people need it. They need it and they're yearning for it. So don't ever look at your challenges as something you cannot overcome. You can overcome them. And the greatest thing is that you can overcome them and then you can share them. And that's when it's really powerful. Start a small group if you need an accountability group and work through this with them. Tell them what you guys are doing. Challenge that group to do something like this. You know, pick up Stripped Down. Go through it. It's 8 weeks. It's fun. There's laughter. There are tears. I'm going to tell you, this last group we had, it was such a bonding time. Not only did those who participated get a lot out of it, as they said they have, but Elisa and I got a lot out of it. To sit there with these couples and laugh with them and cry with them and hug them and share, you know, the ups and downs of life. You feel the bond. And that's what's so amazing about you guys, because you guys are there. You guys are doing this. But I want you, and I'm going to challenge you to allow Jesus into your bedroom and to talk about it to other people.
The reality is that, you know, you guys have all heard this, one person can make a difference. One extraordinary marriage in your community can make a difference. You can choose to be that marriage. And it's not that we don't all have obstacles. We don't all have issues. Some are, you know, they're all different. I won't say bigger, you know, whatever. It's all different. But the reality is that if we're going to strengthen our world, you know, it's like that one Facebook comment that said, you know, doesn't God have bigger things to worry about? God loves each and every one of us. And sometimes that change starts right at home. That strengthening starts when you look across the table to the person that you said I do to, and you say we will. Mm-hmm. So you can make a difference. You can make different choices. And that's what we're challenging you to, guys. Be that couple that is a beacon in your community. Start thinking about it. I mean, this one has grown so much since we first started, but we're starting to see, you know, I mean, you guys are spreading the word like nobody's business. You must just be sharing, you know, the posts and the podcasts, because it's you know, like we're starting to see some real traction going on here. And the reality is that you guys are changing lives, not just your own. Every time you share a podcast, every time you share one of the pictures that Tony puts up, there's another person out there that gets an opportunity to say, you know what? I can change my marriage for the better. I can do this. You're empowering people that you don't even know need help. Or, you know, because we keep up those masks. And so doing those shares, saying, hey, you know, I heard this crazy thing on, you know, One Extraordinary Marriage Day. You got to check out these guys. You know, they're talking about this crazy blue chair. And then you get your friends to listen and they're like, I never thought about that. Maybe that's something my husband or my wife and I should do.
Or maybe they've been thinking about it, but don't know how to bring it up. And you guys know, you know, new listener, you'll hear us talk about a lot. Those of you who've been around, you know it. Communication. We got to talk with our spouses. It is so vital. And what we've heard numerous times is through this show, you're able to talk, right? Because many of you are listening to it, your spouse is listening to it, and then you're able to come together and you start to go, that's an interesting idea. Mm-hmm. What did you think about it? Conversation gets moving. And, Travis and Sean are a couple that come to my mind, and they have been a long time listeners. Both of them have. And when we get emails from them or just little notes from them, it's just so humbling. It truly is humbling to hear these guys and just talk about their marriage and what they've been able to do by just talking. They got 3 kids.
Young kids. And they talk. They make it a point. They make it a priority. And that's what's been allowing them to grow in their marriage day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. Mm-hmm. It's what the foundation of Jesus allows you to do. It's on him, and then you're able to talk. And so bring it up. If your spouse isn't one to listen to podcasts, we hear this all the time. If your spouse isn't one to listen, then just bring up the ideas, the important points. Ask the question. The question that I love to always ask and bring up so we can get deeper into conversation is, what is it about sex that is important to you? Or what is it about Jesus being in our room while we're making love that is important to you? It allows that person, your spouse, to expand and not just give you a yes or no question. What is it about our marriage that is important to you? Listen to them and then talk back. If they say, hey, what's important to my marriage is that I know you're going to be here each and every night. That's important to me. All right. Well, what is it about me being here each and every night important to you? And that just allows you guys to dive into your marriage and dive into these areas like Jesus in the blue chair that you may never get to if you don't challenge yourselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say. I know some of you will be anxiously saying, where's that link to the Facebook page? We'll have it and you'll find it. And, add your comments. Put them below on the podcast, on the One Extraordinary Marriage page. Stick them up on Facebook. Weigh in on this discussion. And if it's something that you haven't thought about before, we'd love to hear what you're thinking and what you're willing to try. What are you willing to try praying together in your bedroom? Are you willing to, have a conversation with your spouse about this? What are you willing to try to just see? What if inviting God into your bedroom strengthens your marriage? What have you got to lose?
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? I don't know that there is a worst that could happen. I know there hasn't been for us, and it's been almost 5 years. Right. It's pretty good track record as far as statistics go. Yeah, I can't remember. It's like all that statistics and probability, and that class went over my head. But the reality is, guys, God's got extraordinary marriages in store for you. He just wants to be a part of yours.
Yeah. All right, you guys. So if you want to pick up the 7 Days of Sex Challenge, you can go grab that at 7daysofsex.com. Don't forget, you can email us at info@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. You can email us. We always love hearing what's happening with you guys. If you'd like to call in, 858-876-5663. We love those voicemails. Call them in. We'll listen to them. Some of them will play. Some we don't. You know that. And to that, thank you again to all of you, new listeners, those who've been around for a long time. and for sharing One Extraordinary Marriage. We are truly blessed. We are truly humbled by what you guys do each and every week. We love you guys, and we'll catch you next time.